Hello, and welcome to the KOFISI Connect podcast. This month is Creativity Month, and the subject of today's podcast is creativity and innovation in business, why it's necessary and becoming more important for businesses. My name is Valentine Ngeny. I'm a graphic designer at KOFISI, and joining me today is
Emuron Alemu. I'm a veteran creative, mostly advertising. There's a lot more, but that's just me. Yeah, award-winning advertising creative.
Humble, but okay. Let's take that.
Kelvin Sanare, an illustrator and animator, and also the founder and director for Sanare Animation Studios.
Fantastic.
And I'm Kigondu Martin. I'm a theater and film guy, meaning I write, I act, I direct. I produce as well, but theater is my main form of focus. And I'm glad to be here with really dope guys.
We are glad to have you, Martin. Karibu sana. So, why is creativity and innovation so important in business? Emuron?
Well, without creativity and innovation, an organization will stay static. And if you think of evolution, whatever didn't evolve died. If you think about business, business I think is referred to sometimes as a jungle. If you think about the animals in the jungle, whatever's not moving quick enough dies. So creativity and innovation are not just important, they're the reason organizations stay alive. Without it, your organization will die.
Spot on. And true, we do need to evolve.
Yeah.
That brings me to what's the difference between creativity and innovation?
I think it comes down to implementation, to be honest. Creativity, it's having amazing ideas, it's having out-of-the-box thinking, it's thinking unconventionally. So a creative mind or creative is someone who thinks different, who thinks unconventional. But innovation only comes in place or comes alive when those ideas are executed, when they are implemented. And that's why you find there are many organizations we have creative thinkers and great creativity here. But then the organization is not moving forward because they're simply not innovating. And also I think if you interact with creatives, I think it happens with all the people we've interacted with, they're people who are brilliant with ideas. But that follow through, the ability to execute, not there. So those are not innovators. Innovators execute. And that is where a lot of the work is. Coming up with ideas, people can come up with great ideas on the fly. The ability to execute these brilliant creative ideas is what innovation is. So innovation, creativity, the difference is implementation.
That's powerful, Emuron. I need a minute just to soak that in. But that also brings me to a question I think all of you have been asked before. Can you learn creativity?
I think so, yes.
Are you born with it?
There's an element of it that you're born with, a certain amount of talent that you'd have to be born with. In my opinion, that accounts for about 10 to 20% of, or even less. I think when you listen to people talking about art, for example, you have an art piece over there. And I think it's Macklemore who did a song called 10,000 Hours, in which he said the greats were not great because they were born that way. And I'm paraphrasing. He said the greats are not great because they were born great. The greats were great because they painted a lot. So that's the thing you have to learn. Because you see, there's a difference between talent and skill. Talent is the creativity that you'll be born with, the ideas, you'll have that, you'll flourish. The ability to innovate, to implement, you have to perfect that craft. I'm sure if you look at your initial animations and what you're doing now, there's a big difference. Very. I'm sure if you look at what you wrote or even your acting in the past and what you're doing now, there's a big difference because you have learned that skill. So creativity can be learned. And the truth is, if you have a talent but are not willing to put in the work, someone will show up who's less talented than you and will leave you far behind because they're spending the sleepless nights perfecting. And 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're like, hold on, how did this talentless person become better than me?
And
they learned.
And make more money than
Of course, ideally, yes. Yeah. So creativity can definitely be learned. Yeah.
True, and that actually brings me to Martin. Martin,
Yeah.
you work with creatives all the time, and I'm sure you teach them as well. So,
Okay.
give me your take on that.
I'll definitely piggyback a bit on what is just shared.
Yeah.
First of all, start by saying I totally agree. Innovate or die.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sad truth. Number one, so we have to be just for survival of business or just for survival in a craft. You have to keep improving yourself. Then comes in the 10,000 hours. So when it comes to teaching, I do agree it can be taught. But to turn it into a skill, you definitely need time on working on the craft, on practice. I work with both very young talent and older talent, and by older talent I mean novices who decide to become actors or writers much later in life, and it's allowed. Yeah, and the difference between the two is Picasso, I think it's Picasso who said we are all born gifted, or we are all born. He speaks about how being a child, you're very open to learning and building, and you already have it. Then it's the world that messes you up. Yeah, clearly he didn't say that, but that was the spirit of his quote. I'd like to believe, and so I see it a lot with kids as well. So when you're training young actors, you'll see that they have it in them, especially if the interest is there. If the spark is there, then it could definitely turn into a fire. And for the older ones, they discover it maybe much later in life, or maybe they just want to try a different path. And with them, it's different. But then again, it still comes down to how much you're willing to put aside hours to better your skill at whatever it is, yeah? So yes, it can be taught, and I see it a lot out there. Hard work could beat talent any day. So it depends on how much you're willing to work on the craft.
A life fact. That's true. Absolutely. I totally agree. Kevin, you specifically work with businesses, not just your bread and butter, but it's also how you grew. I think all of us here work with businesses. I mean, sales is a big thing. But Kevin, what's your take on that as a creative and working with businesses? How do you deal with the two, especially when they do not quite understand the creative process that you're bringing on the table?
So what I do is I take them through the creative process. It's like teaching them. And
Okay.
depending on the conversation or the briefing I get from the client, I can be able to gauge that these are the expectations and this is the solution I have for them. So I make sure that every step of the creative way, they can have an idea of what you're going to do. So it's not very new. And then I also allow a bit of their input, because in the end of it all, they are the ones who have the idea. They're the ones who have the dream. So I'm just like an implementer. So my getting a satisfaction from the project would be, yes, they're going to pay me. That's nice. But the best satisfaction is that the client wanted this thing. They wanted a red painting, and then they got a red painting. Back to that story, for everybody's a creative when there was a kid. Yes. They were a kid. So everybody has the potential of having an idea, but they don't have that missing piece to get them from position A to position B. So if I place myself as that missing piece, then I can be able to enable them to actually fulfill their creative pursuits.
Wow. First of all, that sounds challenging, but you're a master at it and you've been doing it for years, so I'm sure you have a few tricks up your sleeves. How do you work with clients who, if you're selling creativity, which is the product that you are selling, but clients who are not in the creative space, and therefore, how can businesses that aren't in spaces traditionally associated with creativity and innovation, not just work with you, but how do you sell it to them that this is going to not just improve your bottom line, but also help your team and help the people in your team in terms of the work that they're doing, etc.?
So I approach it as a problem-solving angle, whereby they have this problem they want to solve. So for example, if it's making more sales, and look at what they've been doing before. So if maybe they've been doing newsletters or they've been doing Facebook posts, how can I input my animation or my illustration skills to give them an edge? So if it's a bank, instead of doing the normal printing advertisements, they can do something totally unique. If they're going to do AR, if they're going to do virtual reality, something that is going to give them that extra unique appeal that is going to get more eyeballs to their product. So that's how I approach it. And depending on their hunger, appetite for creativity, I can be able to now suggest a solution that kind of works. There might be some guys who just want salt, and there's some guys who want aromat, or they want like all the shebangs or everything. So just by talking to them, I can be able to tell this is what could work for you, and kind of take them through that this is the potential of how this could be, and then give them now a quote at the end of everything when they've accepted everything. Yeah. But the most important thing is, how can you solve the solution first?
You're there to solve a problem. I agree. And thank you. You've mentioned something so important, that's social media, which as content creators, what's your take on that in terms of your businesses? Is it a pro? Is it a con? Has it changed the industry?
It's definitely changed the industry.
Yeah.
There was, if you remember, of course, I think the most famous ad slot is the Super Bowl ad slot. And I think 30 seconds goes for $7 million. And of course, it's the promise of reaching 100 million people.
Yeah.
And when people were debating the ads, because the Super Bowl ads are always debated, because you're supposed to put your best foot forward. If your client's spending 7 million,
That's true.
you'd want to have a really kick-ass ad. And while people were debating, Mr. Beast, right, who's on social media in a big way, jumped in the conversation and said, guys, next time you want to reach 100 million people, reach out to me. I'll charge you less. So the reality is, yes, it's called social media for a reason. It's media. People are creating their channels. And I know people do the joke of, hey, welcome to my channel. But people who do it proper are actually creating real channels, the way TV stations had to create channels, radio stations, etc. And for some of these people, the way they're doing it is so perfect that they will deliver more direct impact for business than the biggest TV station and the biggest news station. So it has its pros, definitely. And when you interact or deal with people who are doing it well, it's beyond powerful. So, yeah.
Phenomenal, if not. Yeah, and I think we might just be beyond the age gap for Mr. Beast, but his audience is definitely on him. There's something that man has.
Yeah.
But we know we're not talking about him, we're talking about us and businesses.
Yes.
And I have to mention that, as a creative working at KOFISI, I'm a graphic designer, and I stay at a computer all day, basically. I have to say, our spaces do bring up something when you're working here. I've been privileged to see the design and build team working from how they just use the patterns to how they set up the spaces and introduce the rooms for businesses, how they've balanced everything from the types of colors they use to patterns to even the spaces that they create for the people coming in to do business, because our tagline is centers of productivity, regardless of the business that you bring into the center. It's quite impressive to see creativity and business being gelled together.
True.
Yeah, but now that leads me to, how do you guys stay motivated in terms of your work? What are your inspirations? Martin?
Life. Honestly, life. But also, like we say, innovate or die. But on the other side, you also don't work, you don't eat. We have bills to pay. We have family and a life to live. And having the privilege of our enterprise being our creativity, then you have no choice but to go out there and work, whether or not you're inspired. But of course, inspiration is key, because you then have to keep going because you enjoy it. You just don't have to keep going because you have to. Yeah, and the only way you keep enjoying it is by looking for this inspiration. And so mine, I get it by, weirdly, it's a thing we talked about, or at least I found the conversation going about watching other people fully engage in their crafts, and that is exciting. For instance, I watched Creed 3 not so long ago, yeah, and I found it exciting that I'm not a sporty guy, so I won't go out there and watch football matches, but I'll enjoy a good boxing match, I'll enjoy seeing someone who is so good at what they do. And so I'll binge on a lot of Muhammad Ali, I'll binge on a lot of Tyson from back in the day, to just look at a person do his thing and live fully at the top of his craft. And that's just thinking sports. I'd also look around and look at designers and look at painters and what they're doing, and think, if that is how they choose to live their life fully, then if this is mine, if theater is mine, if writing is mine, then the next idea I get, I'll definitely jump in there. So I won't just sit and wait for the inspiration. I'll jot things down, and when two hunches bump, then there comes my idea. It could be a hunch I had 5 years ago that bumps into a hunch I had 2 days ago, and my next script is already on its way. So I stay inspired by staying hungry, looking out for the next fire, the next spark. And the only way to do that is look around, see what others are doing, get inspired by that, or just keep going up till the next click happens, at least for me. Yeah.
As an award winner this year at Kenya Theatre Awards, Martin, we can definitely learn from you there.
Yeah, asante sana.
Kevin, how do you stay inspired and creative?
I'd pick that point for life, just normal life. For example, today it was very rain. It was raining a lot. There's so many things that you can do about that. I can do an illustration about how there are floods in the roads. Maybe somebody just bought a house yesterday, and then today it's flooded. So a cartoon about this is the best time to buy a house or to buy land. That already is creative output. The other thing could be, I like listening to a lot of music as I work, listening to podcasts, just hearing other views and other ideas. So when you're drawing or when you're working, you kind of have this constant conversation happening, not in your head, but like other people just giving you ideas, giving you inspiration, so that when you're working, you want to give it your all. Like there's constant feedback that this is where people are playing at. So you need to kind of keep up.
Both of you have mentioned storytelling and clearly taking inspiration from the things around us. And I mean, Emuron, you're a Khan Award winner.
Yes.
You definitely understand that, perhaps better than most in the room.
Definitely not better than the guy who writes plays.
Can be debated.
Yeah. So how do you get your inspiration?
So I think staying inspired actually is a bit tricky for most creatives. The way I do it, and this is a hack I just figured out last year, is you have to force humility on yourself. Because see, you start off and everything around you is exciting. People are doing things, right? And you're like, oh, one day I want to do that. I was talking to a film director last week, and his ambition, his initial goal in life was, I want to do a Safaricom ad. Now he's done 3 of those. And then the more if you're willing to work hard, if you're genuinely working hard, a lot of the things that initially seemed very distant to you, you will achieve. I remember one day as a young writer, I was like, the day I get an ad on DSTV, I've made it. Then you do that. The day I run a creative department, oh, that happens. The day I run multiple offices, that happens. The day I set up a business, boom, boom. The day I win an award, boom, now there's like 72 awards. And I'm like, you have to consistently keep moving your motivation, your carrot, if I can put it that way. And then I watched the documentary on Quincy Jones, and he was asked the question, how do you stay humble? With all that he has done, how do you stay humble? And he said, it's because he has set his dreams so high that they keep him humble. So in spite of everything he's achieved, he's still far from achieving his dream. And I had this conversation about a month ago with my creative partner. So my creative partner runs his own agency, but we were creative partners years ago, and we've maintained that relationship. We talk every day, bounce ideas off each other, and so on and so forth. And we agreed to set a target for ourselves that is laughable. The kind where even yourself, you're like, come on, this is not possible. Yeah. And when you have that there, it doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you get to 100 awards. Doesn't matter if you end up owning 10 companies. Doesn't matter if you're doing a commercial with LeBron James. Doesn't matter if you win an Oscar. You will still find yourself in a position where you're like, okay, tomorrow I still have to get up, go to the office or go to my desk and put in the work, because what that target is that I've set for myself, I'm still far from achieving. So you have to force humility upon yourself, because it's very easy. I'm sure with your reputation, you could easily be like, yo, I'm the baddest at what I do. I'm sure with you, after winning your award, you're like, guys, I'm an award winner. I could just chill and stop being motivated. Yeah. But as you say, the moment you do that, you die. So you have to consistently push your carrot so far out that your entire life you're chasing that carrot. It has to be such a big ambition that even yourself, the universe should laugh at you. Like, I'm not even going to say it on the mic, because I guarantee you guys will laugh at me if I tell you what that dream is, what my target is. Yeah.
Indulge us.
No, I won't.
It's that crazy.
If I ever achieve it, I'll come back here and announce it here first. I'll be like, yo, I'm done. I'm retiring. I can't do this anymore.
I love it. Yeah. You've heard it first.
Yes.
KOFISI Connect podcast.
KOFISI Connect.
Yes. We will hold you to it.
Yes.
I love it. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Yes. So let me plug the collective, right? The collective is a creative enterprise I run. And the way we operate is we think very different. We do not. A lot of people think it's an agency. It actually isn't. It's an assembly of eclectic creative minds from Dakar, Senegal to Cape Town. And how we work, like you talked about solving problems. So when a client comes in with a brief, we see that as a problem and we custom create teams for that problem. So it's not like agency walk in, here's a brief, here's a creative now. What's your problem? Boom, cool. We build a team. And it's not a place where you find just typical agency creatives. We do have those, right? But we are solving problems with makeup artists and audio producers from the hood. One of our most brilliant creatives in Lagos is an ex-lawyer turned magician. And like, it's not a pun when I say his ideas are magical. I remember walking in and I'm asking the head of our Lagos office, why did you bring a magician to a creative brief? Like, let's get serious. I know I asked for diversity in creativity, but let's get serious. Say, look, Emuron, give me 1 hour in this brainstorm. If this guy didn't come through with anything strong, I'll kick him out and bring someone else in. In 15 minutes, this guy had the solution that the client was looking for. So yeah, the collective. And also, if you're a creative mind out there, the fact is, whether you know it or not, you're a member of the collective. So yeah, we're looking forward to working with you soon.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Martin?
As a member of the collective.
Yes.
No, I'd definitely plug Nairobi any day. I'd say Nairobi and Africa is a hub of excellence. Yeah. And look at us just within the creative economy as it is. Look at the filmmakers out of this place. Look at the theater makers out of this place. Look at the visual artists. People out here are working. And of course, not having the privilege of traveling every state, every country or continent. But thanks to social media, you can look around and travel that way and compare. And I honestly think Nairobi is a hub of absolute creativity. Look at our music. We have Traboli, we have Checkmate, we have Zero, we have phenomenal musicians. Look at podcasts. We have KOFISI here, and I'm sure you'll have many guests who prove this again and again. Anywhere else, let's always look around within our spaces and see that here, home, there's a lot of excellence there. And I'd say running a podcast, the Busy Being Born podcast, this is a thing that we consistently try and remind everyone that everything that you're looking for is right here in Africa. Everything. Like, if you're to reverse climate change, climate action, we have to look here. If we are to reverse us struggling with drought and insufficiency of food, we have to look within. That's all I'll say, and I'll keep saying that Nairobi and Kenya is a hub of excellence and a hub of creativity. Again, thanks for this, and good to meet you guys.
Karibu sana, Martin.
Thank you.
Kevin?
With all these wise words, I'm wondering, how can I add? I'd like to plug the studio, Sanare Animation Studios, where we offer animation, illustration, and design solutions for clients. And the idea is that we spark imagination. So it's not only for other creatives, but also with clients and also the partakers of the creative output. So if somebody sees an advert or somebody sees a creative solution that I've given, it sparks an idea in their head that maybe I need to buy this soap, or maybe I need to do this and this. So I think that part for inspiration is something that I try and push for, and also try to cultivate it in other people. So if I also get people, other creative minds who want to learn creativity, I try my best to see how I can mentor and train them. So there's also that training arm of Sanare Animation coming soon. And thank you so much for KOFISI, for the coffee and the space. That's free creativity right there.
Honestly, the coffee has definitely brought in more clients, and it's a creative or innovative way to sell. Yeah. So again, guys, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm honestly just very humbled and proud to have had you and to have had this session with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Asante.
Thank you. Asante sana.